Okay.
All right.
All right. Here we are, everybody. Totally Driven Radio. And we're getting ready to present to you another big guest. Legendary actor. Huge resume. It's not every day that you get to talk to somebody who was Zorro amongst Dracula in the Monster Squad. I mean, a resume that is incredible. And beside his acting credits, he's an incredible artist as well. So let's talk to the man who's doing it all, the one, the only, Mr. Duncan Regeher. Welcome to Totally Driven Radio, Duncan.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Pretty good. Good to talk to you.
Good. Let's see real quick. I want to give you a little flashback. Chores Theater in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, a couple months back.
Yeah.
Myself and my wife came over to talk to you, and my wife had an old picture that she had gotten from you that was autographed in the mail when she was younger, and she was showing it to you, and you were just completely blown away by that.
Yeah, I remember it well. No, I thought it was just great. I was thrilled. And very touched, actually. It was quite wonderful. I really appreciate you guys doing that. It was wonderful.
That's awesome. It's funny. Like she has like a little box, and one day she pulled this box down and she showed it to me, and there was your picture, and there was like a whole pile of them, and I was just like, this is pretty awesome. Like to be able to write, like some of the people they sent back like the stamped photos, but yours was one of the ones that was actually legitimately signed by you. So that was really cool.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. So
it seems that as I did some research on you, you have like a pretty incredible, not only career, but you're like all over the place with all types of creative outputs of talent, whether it's, your acting or writing or sculpting or painting and drawing. I mean, you're just doing it all.
I don't know. I'm just being me, but I've always sort of done that from the very beginning, since I was a child. So it's, it's like a life for me. It's a way of life, if you will. It's people talk about careers all the time, but I've never really thought about the things that I do in terms of career. It's always been, well, this is what I do. I make pictures,
right.
Write stuff, and
No.
acting came later, but it's just.
Okay, so the acting came later. Okay.
Yeah.
What did you start out doing now?
I have to, as a painter, I always thought of myself as an artist as a child. Very young. My father was a painter, and materials available. So I just assumed that's what I was going to be. I was going to grow up and be an artist, and I guess I had also a strong interest in literature. Because we read a lot when we were kids, and so that sort of instilled a sense of poetry and writing. So, those things were there from a very early age. And I think by the time I was 12, I had cottoned on to Shakespeare. And that became very much a part of my life, too. It was just a natural extension of the writing.
Right. Yeah. And also, too, I saw that you were a figure skater as well and an Olympic boxer, or contender for that?
Yeah. Many years ago, yeah.
Wow.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, being from Canada, I guess, with the figure skating, did you play hockey at all, too, or figure skating?
Yeah, no, I went through the whole hockey phase and did all of that, but I was never very good with team sports. It just never worked for me. I wasn't a team player. Hog the puck,
Oh, that's funny.
True.
Now, how about boxing? I mean, to be an Olympic contender, I mean, you had to be pretty good.
Yeah, I guess I was. It's a long time ago, and I think about it, and I think what I was lucky a lot of the time, because I was always fighting people that outweighed me. They weren't taller than I was. They didn't have the reach that I had, but I did well and at an amateur level.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? It's
right.
Scoring points and doing well and staying out of the way and using what the things, the gifts that you have, and
right.
It worked well. I wouldn't stand a chance today. If I was that young man today, I would never be a contender in any respect whatsoever. But back then.
See, so you had even more outlets, and then the arts still won over, though, over everything.
Well, sure, because it's a singular expression. It's how you can speak from your core, and it's likewise with writing. I said earlier that I wasn't any good at team sports. However, the collaboration that is involved with acting has always been of interest too. So, that's not really a field where you can say, this is totally my expression. It's an interpretive art, and you do have to cooperate with everybody around you, not just the other actors, but, the whole crew. Everybody's kind of responsible for the outcome of performance and the piece itself.
Did you ever think early on, being that you were, getting into Shakespeare even at the time, your young teenage years, did you ever have in the back of your head thinking of going into acting at all, or just more or less sticking with...
I was a professional actor by the time I was 15. I had my own radio.
Oh, wow.
Show at 14. And
really?
By the time, yeah, it was called Strawberry, what was it called? It was called Strawberry Lane, kind of a combination of Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane, which dates me. It's that time in the 60s, right? But it was great training ground to do the show, and I was far too young to be doing it, but they gave me the job. And then later, I became a professional actor, a stage actor, by doing Shakespeare.
Wow.
I was 16 when I started doing that. So. Yeah.
Now, with the radio show, what was the show about? Was it like stories?
Oh, it was everything. It was just whatever was happening locally. It was set up in the interior of British Columbia, and it was the early days of cable. And we would just interview everybody from hockey players to ballerinas to whatever was going on.
Wow.
In the community, it was that kind of a program, and geared towards younger people. And we would also play the latest tunes. It was that kind of. It was a polyglot show.
That's pretty cool, though. At a young age, to be given an opportunity like that.
Oh yeah, it was great.
So then you said you were a professional actor by the time you were 15. I mean, that's pretty awesome as well.
But yeah, it kind of blew me away as well. At the time, I couldn't believe it because they were giving me these roles that were way beyond my years. And it was great.
Wow. It's got to be especially when a young age, to be able to do something like that, and then to actually turn it into your career and profession is even more. It's got to be very rewarding, I should say.
I guess so. I never really thought about it at the time. I just knew that this was right, that I was going along with it, and that was it. I just took the ride. It just seemed like the right path for me. So I just went with it, and I ended up at Stratford and on the Stratford stage, and then later worked in Toronto for many years, and made enough money to leave Toronto to go to Los Angeles and pursue a film career.
Now, how old were you when you moved to Los Angeles to do that?
I think I was a late starter in Los Angeles, about 28 or 29.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because we talk to a lot of people, and they're like, oh, yeah, I moved to, like, New York City or Hollywood at, like, 13. It's like, wasn't that scary? Like, to do such a big jump, like, you're coming from, like, Idaho or something like that, and you're going out to, one of the big two cities, and, I would be scared. I'd be scared now.
I think I'd sort of gotten used to it by then, because I'd started so young and moved to a fairly big city, which was Vancouver. And then from Vancouver to Toronto, which is another big city, and then from Toronto moved to Los Angeles, and then to London, and so I've always moved, kept on the move. It's just the way it's been. Now,
like you said, you've done a lot of theater and stage work, and then you've done TV and movies. And which out of the two would you prefer? Would you rather be on stage, live performing, or?
Well, those mediums, they have different aspects that make them attractive. The stage is always the immediacy of the audience and that sort of connection that you make with them is absolute magic when you can get it. And you learn how to do it, how certain things can happen to make that wonderful experience occur. It doesn't always occur because, you know, I often say to the other performers, and they say, "Oh, we had a down night tonight. I don't know what was wrong. Our energy was all wrong." And I said, "Well, you know, don't forget you're only half of the equation. The other half is the audience. You don't know what rhythms and patterns are affecting them. Is it raining outside? Is it the time of year? Is it, you know, it could be anything. You know, so there's a, you know, how do you make the chemistry work? Anyway, I'm digressing. You know, there are other things about film that are interesting, and that is the immediacy, the intimate aspect of it, the up-close work that you can do. On stage, you've got to get it to the back of the whole hall in order to convey what you're trying to do. So it's a different process. And the only other one is television. You know, it's slightly different from film, usually because in a television series there's a time aspect involved that makes you, you know, sort of have to overlook some of the more poignant things that you could perhaps do in film. Although I have to say there are, you know, you look at the work that HBO and even Showtime, they come out with some absolutely amazing television now. And television in the UK is brilliant. Is absolutely brilliant. When it's at its best, it's you know, it's incredible to work in that. So
how about today? Like, what are some of your favorite shows that you watch?
That I watch? I don't watch very much at all, to be perfectly honest. No, I really never get a chance to do it. And you know, there are many shows that I like in passing, and if I have a moment, I love the television show The Big Bang Theory. That cracks me up. It's a lot of fun. That one, I think they're amazingly talented, those kids.
Now, a person like yourself, who's you know, an incredible resume between stage and film and TV, and in the modern day of television, we are bombarded with reality shows. What's your opinion on the whole world of reality shows?
Well, I don't get it. I don't get them, but I don't think I quite have the same indoctrination because I don't really watch a lot of TV. I don't really have the time. I'll get the news, but I don't really. I don't know what this. I guess it's this overview that we have now. It's tied up with, you know, the ideas of Facebook and very much an insular, inward-looking time that we're in, where people want some sort of recognition on a personal level, and they want their own lives to be interesting in and of themselves, rather than doing something remarkable, tapping into their talent or their genius or whatever, and presenting that. We're now looking at people who are basically maybe privileged in some way. You know, you have you know, the Kardashians, and Lord knows my girlfriend watches them all the time, and I have no idea why. You know, you know how these people's lives relate to hers. I don't know. You know, I don't get it. You know, I tease her all the time. Anyway,
that's funny.
Yeah, but you know, it's like, I don't know. I don't know what the interest is, other than to say, well, this person's life somehow relates to mine. So if I watch it, I know them somehow. Yeah. I think that's what it is. Before we used to, our stars were, and there's still a few around who are completely untouchable. They're almost deified, as in Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. You can't get near them.
Yeah.
They're incredible stars. They're huge.
Right.
But you don't know very much about them on a personal level, and that's what makes them interesting, that mystery. And I have a hope that the mystery will start to come back for our celebrities and what have you, in the same way that, you know, in the old days, those old movie stars like Errol Flynn, like Clark Gable, Carole Lombard, they were enormous, absolutely enormous, you know, wonderful. Now it's just come down to, you know, inspecting people's lives on an everyday basis. You now have the Wahlbergs or Burgers or Bergs or whatever they are. And,
I was watching that show yesterday.
and you're watching all of this stuff, this everyday family arguments and whatever have you. And I only know about it because I turned on the television set and it happened to be there. But I know there are others around like it. You know?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know what the interest is. Do you know? Can you tell me what it is?
Well,
what's your interest in it?
we do another show on our network on Sunday nights. That's a show just we talk TV, and that's all we talk about. And every week when it comes to my segment, they always laugh because most of the shows I watch end up being shows like that. And two of my main favorite shows at the present time is one show's called Mob Wives, where it's a bunch of literal mob wives, and all they do is argue and scream and sit around tables and eat and drink wine. And I guess it reminds me of my family growing up, because I'm an Italian and I grew up in a very Italian family, so I can relate to it. It reminds me of being a kid growing up, because that's how my family was. And the other show I watch is called Counting Cars, where it's this guy out in Vegas who has a shop, and he redoes old cars, and he just has such a passion for it that and I tell them, the guys, each week, like, you have to just sit and watch it. Like, I sit on the edge of my couch each week with like a little giddy schoolgirl watching this, because I just get so excited about the work he does, and you can see the passion and the love for the cars, and I'm a big car nut. I love cars. So that's like my two favorite shows right now.
Well, yeah, one sort of reminds you of your past, so there's a relationship kind of on a personal level there, but the other one is in appreciation of somebody who's quite creative and coming up with, wonderful expressions.
Right, but then
cars.
You spin it to the Kardashians, like you said, with your girlfriend, and I can't watch it.
Yeah, I know. Well, she loves all that stuff, whatever that is.
So you had mentioned legendary actors like Earl Flynn, and you got to portray Earl Flynn.
Yeah, wonderful, iconic star is what he was. He was just brilliant, and he had a great time in life, and I had a great time playing him as a result.
Now, how is it when you get a role like that? I mean, was this somebody you looked up to previously before you got to portray him?
No, I think my experience of him before that was probably watching him play Robin Hood. I wasn't even that familiar with a lot of, I knew Captain Blood, the Seahawk, and some of those movies. And when the role was presented to me, I had very little time actually to prepare for it. Read his book, his autobiography, and watched a few movies and tried to get the gist of the guy that way. Right. Yeah.
And how about when you did the miniseries, Last Days of Pompeii, like working with Laurence Olivier?
Wow. Yeah. Great. He wasn't very well at the time we were working together. He was, on a drip and what have you. But he was amazing. I remember walking along in Pinewood Studios, and he was doing a speech inside one of the studios, and you could hear him through the walls. The sound stage. It was amazing. You couldn't hear anybody else speaking, but you could hear Larry. Amazing. He had this incredible way of throwing his voice. It was brilliant. And he was a wonderful, warm, charming guy to work with. Had a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Now, how about there's actually a new Pompeii movie coming out, I think this year.
Oh, okay.
I think. What's your feelings like on that? Like, where there's a lot of remakes now in Hollywood, where they do, something from 20, 30, 40 years ago, and they remake it.
Well, of course, it's brand new for somebody else, isn't it? Sometimes
that's
it's
true.
Like it seems like just yesterday that they were doing. Well, it was just yesterday that they were doing the Last Days of Pompeii for me, even though it was close to 30 years ago now, I think.
Right.
But for somebody else, it's brand new.
And how about something else they don't do in TV anymore is, which you did with the Last Days of Pompeii, and also the Blue and the Gray miniseries, where they used to make incredible miniseries, and they don't do that no more.
Well, I don't know. I think it's kind of coming back, don't you? I mean, there's these shorter versions that like True Detective, I think is one of those that's, has an end to it. It doesn't go on for, episode after episode, years and years and years and years. It's just they're finite.
Gotcha.
I'm trying to think of the other one that's Broadchurch. Well, that's out of England, and then there's going to be its American counterpoint, which is Grace Point, I think it's called. But I think those are limited. They have a run of maybe 8 episodes, and then it's done. So it's similar to the miniseries.
Gotcha. Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
And how about like I said, the blue and the gray. It's funny, that movie stands out with me to this day. And I was probably like 13 at the time or so, and I remember just watching that and just being actually really moved by the movie. And like I said, to this day, it's just a movie that has really stuck out in my head. Yeah, wonderful.
It's the subject matter is brilliant. Of course, it's the Civil War. And, it's endless material.
And then you were another classic was V.
Oh yeah.
I saw that on your resume, and I started laughing because as I was a teenager at the time, so of course I loved it. And a friend of mine, it was funny because he was a few years younger, and he was probably 12 years old at the time, but he ended up spray painting on his garage. Like his parents came home and they went nuts. He spray painted a giant V on the garage door. The visitors are coming.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh, great. Those are great. It's a great series to do. It's so funny. I was talking earlier about my girlfriend, and she's Spanish. She grew up in Madrid, and she was telling me that when I was a little girl, I used to run home to see V. My girlfriends and I, we would run home after school as fast as we could because we couldn't miss a single episode of V. And I was so in love with Charles on that. I said, I was Charles. Yeah, right. I said, I was Charles, and no. Oh my God, she said. Oh my God, it was you.
Oh, that's funny.
Isn't that funny? All those years later. Oh.
Wow. How about Monster Squad getting to portray Dracula?
Yeah. Well, that's another iconic role. It's just I think it goes for some reason. But a lot of fun to do again, and to do it in a sort of a the camp version of it in a way.
Right.
Because everything else has been done.
Sure.
And certainly we have a lot of vampires around these days. A lot of shows about vampires.
Who would have known, right?
Yeah, really. It took off.
And they just keep making more and more. As a matter of fact, on our TV show last night, we brought up, I was telling them there's another one coming out now. It's Vampire Academy.
Yes, I think I've heard about that. The Vampire Academy. Yes, where can we go next?
Yeah,
and none of them can really be taken seriously. But is that the bent? Is it that it's more of a horror show, or is it humorous, or what?
According to what they were saying on TV, it's supposed to be a combination of Twilight and 90210.
Okay. So a comedy.
I guess. Yeah, I guess it's like I don't know. Anything they can dream up with vampires this day, they're going to go with it. I know.
Too.
Now, looking back on your acting career, what are you most proud of?
Probably. I think playing Abraham Lincoln in John Brown's Body, but that's for the stage. Ranks pretty high, and of course Errol Flynn and Zorro. Those are wonderful experiences. Zorro, simply for the filming experience of it and playing, the double role of Don Diego and Zorro, and all of the action and the great rising speeches, and it was great fun. Horses, swords, the whole bit. It was.
Yeah, did you have to, I guess, learn how to use a sword and all that fun stuff and ride horses?
Well, I'd learned all of that at Stratford in Shakespeare, doing Shakespeare and what have you.
Wow.
So, and I'd also done the Last Days of Pompeii and some of these other sword epics, and worked with Peter Diamond, who was, one of the most brilliant swordsmen in the world.
Nice.
And so I managed to train with him, and he made me look great all the time. So I'm ever so grateful to him. So it was all down to him. It didn't really have anything to do with me. So I'm very appreciative of him. And I guess
now,
there's something to Zorro would be that, I'd always imagined myself as a kid, you grow up, you want to be a swashbuckler and, save the damsel in distress and, ride around on horses and just generally be a hero. And,
right.
You have those aspirations as a kid and hope that they come true. And in this case, yeah, it did in the form of Zorro. It was a lot of fun to play for that reason.
Yes, that is pretty awesome to be Zorro.
Yeah, it's a childhood dream come true, in a way.
Now with your artwork, I mean, I guess that's like your main focus now is making art, and drawing, and painting, and sculpting, and.
Yeah, it is. It is, but I do have other projects. We're working on an audio book right now. Director John Salona and I are putting this thing together from a book that he'd written, a graphic novel. And,
oh wow!
It's called Night Freight, and it's sort of a modern film noir with a colorful cast of mobsters and detectives and art gallery owners, and there's also a femme fatale, Gabriella, as the dominatrix, and she sort of casts her spell over the hero in the piece. But it's wonderful to narrate the whole thing and then play all of the different voices for the characters.
Now, have you done much of that, like voice acting?
Yeah, an awful lot of it. In fact, in the early days, as I was mentioning before, living in Vancouver, that was our bread and butter back then, was to do the radio plays every day.
Oh wow!
They're not so popular anymore, but we used to, CBC radio, and one play after another. You'd do the plays in the morning, and then you'd go and do the theater at night.
Huh.
And that's how we survived. So,
now, how about like today? Would you still be doing it? Would you still be interested in doing a lot more of that, or?
Oh, absolutely, love it. Absolutely love it.
It seems like that's a medium that's really it finally seems like getting recognition, I should say. Like people are finally caring about who the actual person is doing that voice, whereas before people kind of took it for granted.
Yeah, I think it's very much that way. I think certainly with animation, that's true.
Yeah.
It matters very much who the celebrity is that's providing the voice. So.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, even with my own daughters, I see that. They're both very much into animation and stuff, and they know who the voice actors are, and they get all excited if we're going to a convention or something. They want to know what voice actors there and who they are, and I'm just like, wow, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Now, with your artwork, what inspires you to make a sculpture or a painting? Where do your thoughts come from?
Oh, if I knew that. Oh gosh. Well, it's really like stepping off a cliff and hoping that you grow wings on the way down. I mean, I just go. I don't paint what's in front of me. I paint where things from my mind.
Right.
And likewise with sculpture, that I don't really know what has inspired me. Any one thing, and there never is any one thing that inspires you or has an influence over you. It's always multiple things. But we tend to write about these, afterwards to try and pinpoint it down to make it easy for somebody else to understand and say, well, that must be why he came up with that. He played all those iconic roles, so that's why he paints, this way or does that type of sculpture.
Right.
Well, okay. It's a nice answer, I guess. But it doesn't even come close to the truth of it, It's really just grabbing stuff out of the ether, standing there and letting what can come, let it come. That's all.
Let it flow.
Let it flow. You go for it.
Yeah.
And I usually tend to work in themes. I run through a thing, so certainly several paintings unfold as a theme, and gallery owners actually like that because it gives some sort of cohesion to the whole show. It's not that I paint that way on purpose. It's just the way that it is. That's just how I do it.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Now, how about like when we met you a few months ago, conventions? Do you do a lot of conventions as well, or?
I have recently, but I guess you have to be invited to do those things, and I don't know. I like doing them. I like meeting the people and talking to them, and you and your girlfriend or your wife. It was wonderful.
Yeah, they're. I mean, that's another thing. It seems to like really be taken off and exploding over the last few years. The convention scene.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's very big, but it's always fun to go to them, and it's you really meet a lot of different types of people. So I enjoy it.
I guess you get asked a lot to be part of like Monster Squad reunions and stuff like that for those.
Yeah, that seems to have happened a lot recently. But there's so many other other genres that I've been involved in. I played Zorro, so that sort of goes in with the Western motif or with a Western genre. And there's the Star Trek, all of those things that I've done, or Star Voyager. So it's the science fiction stuff works for that, and then of course horror.
Right.
We've got Dracula and Monster Squad. So there's sort of a lot of different areas that I can, different roles, and most of them iconic roles within those genres.
Yeah, it's funny too, because like Monster Squad, it's kind of like got like a cult following, and it's kind of like almost like that same level as like where Goonies has become like this giant cult following as well.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I guess when the movie first came out, it did not do that well at the box office. It was overshadowed by a number of things, and plus a restriction on the age group that was allowed to watch it because of the language back then.
Yeah.
And I think it was my line, "Give me the amulet, you bitch," that sort of bumped the show up into the next category, and therefore eliminated all these young people being able to come and see the film on their own.
How tough was it to do that line with that little girl?
Well, it was risque at the time.
Yeah.
Saying that to a little kid, it was terrible.
Sure.
Not that we say it a lot to little kids now, but back then it was pretty terrifying.
How'd the little girl react?
That kid could scream, I'm telling you, man, she could scream. Ooh, oh, terrifying. I mean, she scared me. I said, "Give me the amulet, bitch." She screamed at me, terrified. I nearly dropped her.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So do you have any big plans for 2014, or?
Well, just to get through I've got several, art projects going, and another book that I'm writing, and also, working on the audio stuff, which is a lot of fun. And we're working on another project, which is a pilot for a television series.
Oh, nice.
So there's quite a few things happening.
Very nice. Yeah, you're definitely keeping busy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do a lot of traveling these days, and back and forth to London and to Madrid.
Oh, wow.
I spent Christmas in Madrid with my girlfriend and her family, and that was wonderful. It was a trip down memory lane. I hadn't been there since I filmed Zorro 20 years ago.
Huh.
So that was good fun. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Wow. So, where can anybody find you if they want to get in touch with you, or Facebook, or in the world of social media?
Yeah, I guess Facebook. They have a couple of sites that are happening, and that's probably the best way to say hello for sure.
Facebook, and also you have your website as well.
Well, the website is that's handled by other people. That's more like that's a commercial site. It's
gotcha.
It's not for communication for purposes, really.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been really nice. I want to thank you for your time. And
well, thank you. It's just been great. I really enjoyed it. And if you come to one of the conventions that I'm at, I hope you guys come by again.
Yeah, oh, definitely. My wife will be dragging us.
Oh, good stuff.
Hey, can I get you to cut a quick ID before I let you go? Just this is Duncan Regeher, and you're listening to Totally Driven Radio?
Sure.
Go for it.
Hi, this is Duncan Regeher, and you're listening to Totally Driven Radio.
Thank you.
Okay.
Duncan, thanks so much, and let's keep in touch. This is a great
time. You bet. Just if you need to email me or whatever, I guess whatever email Jess had is fine, and they'll get in touch with me, and we can go from there.
Awesome. Sounds good, and I'll send you over a copy of this when we put it out there.
Oh, okay. Do you need an address for that?
Well, Jess has the email address, so I can send it over. She has the email.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yes, of course.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Cool.
Good stuff. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much, Duncan.
All right, man. Take care.
Take care.
Bye now.
See ya.
Bye. Cheers.
All right, everybody. There he is. Zorro, Dracula, Errol Flynn, Mr. Duncan Regeher.
Yeah, man, he almost
cool.
forgot how technology works for a minute there. Did you catch that? He's a real old school guy, though, but that's cool.
I'll tell you. Dude, when he said that, it caught me off guard. Right away I started picturing, am I putting this on a disc and mailing it? Or what am I doing? But that's cool. I mean, that dude's a legend. He was a nice guy. And it's scary. I was checking out his website. I mean, he's so, talented and creative. I mean, to be able to do, you're painting pictures, and he's got sketches and drawings, and he sculpts artwork, and then on top of it, he's writing books and, acting and putting together a TV pilot. That right there is the definition of totally driven entertainment.
Yeah, it is, man. He's like the forefather of totally driven entertainment.
I'm telling you. Wow. See, that's what we need, Nick. We'll put him up on our inspiration mantle.
Yep.
That's awesome. All right, well, there you go. I guess we'll take a commercial break, and we'll come back, and we'll take it from there. Stay tuned.